Well, hello to you all. I sincerely hope this week hasn't been too bad for any of you, and that the weekend ahead will be a pretty awesome one. Mayhaps this retro gaming and fun facts video by yours truly, the 8-Bit Academic, will get you started off on a pretty good note. In today's episode, I am once again showing off my impeccable fighting game skills with some footage of both Tekken 2 and Tekken 3. But this time playing as everyone's favorite Hong Kong detective, Jackie Chan. Lei Wulong. But I'm pretty sure I would be forgiven for making that tiny slip up, since it's pretty obvious where Namco got the inspiration from for the character of Lei. One could easily draw a connection between many of Jackie's 80s and 90s films, especially ones like the Police Story franchise, wherein this legendary Chinese action star indeed plays a pretty badass Hong Kong police officer and detective. Not to mention how Lei's fighting style and moves resemble Chan's martial arts styles from some of his earlier films like Snake in the Eagle's Shadow and Drunken Master. Then there's also the bonus fact that Namco actually hired Chan's Japanese dub voice actor to voice Lei in some of the Tekken installments. So with all that being said, I rest my case. Lei Wulong is basically video game Jackie Chan.
Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here. It's fun to drive up here in the Hollywood Hills. But you know what I like a lot more than materialistic things? Knowledge!
But there's actually a reason why I made this case, since today's video, which I'm sure most of you could tell by the title and thumbnail, is once again about Jackie Chan, or rather more about the interesting revelation he discovered about his father when he was already a fully grown man who had become an international action movie superstar. Now I have already made a video about Jackie Chan and his trouble with the Hong Kong triads, where I played Jackie Chan's Stuntmaster for the PS1, link down below in the pinned comment. So since I already played the only real Jackie Chan game in existence, I figured the next best thing would be some Lei Wulong gameplay from Tekken, since he resembles the Hong Kong Kung Fu star so much. Yeah, don't talk to me about that other trash Mortal Kombat ripoff called Fists of Fire.
I'm Jackie Chan, this is my game. Come on.
I fucking hated it. Fucking bullshit. That shit was ass.
I won't go into too much detail about Chan's life other than he was born in the year 1954 to parents Charles and Li Chan, who were both political refugees that fled the Chinese Civil War in the mainland and ended up in the then British colony of Hong Kong. Chan would end up attending the China Drama Academy, where he would learn stage acting, martial arts, acrobatics, stunt performance, singing and traditional Chinese dance, under the tutelage of the ever so strict Yu Jin Yun, who would beat the absolute crap out of anyone that even sang a note out of tune once. After working for some time as a fight choreographer, extra and stuntman, and starring in a handful of early stinkers directed by Triad-affiliated director Lo Wei, which almost cost Chan his life, he finally had his breakthrough in both Snake in the Eagle's Shadow and Drunken Master in the late 1970s, and from here on, Jackie Chan's success would continue to soar, as he became known in the 1980s and 1990s as one of the handful of action stars who would perform most of his own stunts, bagging quite a few serious injuries along the way to prove it. Apparently Guy has broken almost every bone in his body and sustained quite a number of severe fractures as well. Hong Kong stunt work back in the day was definitely not for the faint of heart.
Trap Adventure 2, wow, I've been waiting for this game forever. Finally, the sequel. Okay, here I am as Mario. Okay. So it's one of those. It's one of those, huh? Okay. Well, okay. The key is to jump over the traps and not die. Oh, what? Oh, you have a duck move. Okay. Okay, now I think. Okay. This is the one, guys. So, gotta bait it out. Watch. You gotta bait him out. Yeah. What a little bitch. You know, we'll take care of this game. I'll show you guys what to do. Boom. Boom. Yeah. Fuck him. Here we go. Nope.
He has, however, come under fire in recent years after it was revealed that he did indeed also use stunt doubles on certain occasions, most notably in the films he made during the 90s, which, if you ask me, kinda makes a lot of sense, since by this point he was already in his 40s and was quite banged up from the amounts of abuse he put his body through in the 1980s, especially with the police story films. It turns out though that one of his more well-known doubles was a fellow Peking opera school buddy who was also part of the very first Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung stunt team, named Mars Chung, who recently did a deep dive interview on the Eric Jacobus podcast, which I will link to in the description. Today, Jackie is still quite active in the movie scene, since despite being 71 years old, he for some reason just refuses to sit the fuck down and relax. There has also been quite a bit of controversy surrounding his personal life, such as his relationship with his children, one of whom he doesn't seem to acknowledge at all, and his extremely controversial political opinions, since it seems like he bends quite a lot for the Chinese Communist Party on the mainland, leaving many of his former fans from Hong Kong quite pissed off at him. However, I am one of those people who believes in separating the art from the artist, since Jackie's work in martial arts action cinema speaks quite loudly for itself. And despite his weird political stances and his iffy relationship with his family, there's no denying that he has definitely made some of the greatest action films of all time. Now I know what you're thinking, 8-Bit Academic, you've spoken so much about Jackie Chan, but this video title mentions his father. You lied to us! Well, don't worry dear viewers, I did not lie at all, it's just that I prefer building up some context first before getting into the meat of the story. But in case you're wondering where this meaty story is, well, this is it right here. Now open wide and let me put this meat in your mouth.
Huh? Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
I don't know, man. You've been seeming sus lately.
So, sometime in the early 2000s, while Jackie was making a documentary about his life called Traces of the Dragon, Jackie Chan and His Lost Family, his father just randomly revealed to him while they were both out for a drive that he used to be a spy, along with the fact that his mom was an opium smuggler and that he had half siblings. Not so sure about those last two, but upon digging a little deeper, it turns out Chan's father was indeed a secret agent in the 1920s and 1930s for the Chinese Kuomintang Party, otherwise known as the Chinese Nationalist Party, during the very beginning of the Chinese Civil War. Jackie would also learn that his real surname wasn't actually Chan, but instead Fang, leading him to eventually change his Chinese name from Chan Kong Sang to Fang Shilong, since his father's name was Fang Daolang. The reason for the initial name change to Chan was, as I had mentioned before, when they had escaped as a family to Hong Kong after the end of the Civil War to avoid capture and possible execution by the communist-led People's Liberation Army. Now here's where we stop talking about Jackie Chan and his spy dad for a while and segue into one of the most clusterfuckiest situations of the 20th century, the aforementioned Chinese Civil War, which, if regarded in its entirety, resulted in anywhere between 5 million and 9 million deaths. When it comes to the highest number of deaths championships, China seems to win first prize in every single conflict. Don't believe me? Just go look up their casualty rates in almost every single major war they've had, dating as far back as the Bronze Age. I'll wait.
3 or 4 times, maybe.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Now that you have seen with your own eyes just how insanely brutal Chinese history was, and how they keep winning gold at the Death Olympics, let's go back to the year 1911, the year of the Xinhai Revolution, which saw the eventual collapse of the last Imperial Dynasty of China, otherwise known as the Qing Dynasty. Now you might be wondering, okay, why is 8-Bit Academic going so far back to bore us to death with an unnecessary long history lesson? Well, that's because in order to talk about the Chinese Civil War, one first has to talk about the absolute chaos that preceded it, since it all kinda leads up to that final violent clash between the Communists and Nationalists, which in turn leads us to the tense Willy measuring situation between Taiwan and mainland China today. For about 400 years, China was ruled over by the Qing Dynasty, whose political and imperial administration was made up almost entirely of the Manchu people, an ethnic group from the northeastern regions of China, though back then it was its own nation called Manchuria. After the Ming Dynasty fell in 1644 at the hands of the United Jurchen tribes, who would later become known as the Manchu, they quickly moved to consolidate their power and establish their own imperial dynasty by securing their borders, expanding the empire even further, and by imposing some fairly harsh restrictions on the majority ethnic Han Chinese, but also by integrating both their own culture as well as those of the many other ethnic groups within China, which include the aforementioned Han, as well as the Hui, Hakka, Zhuang, Naxi, and so on. However, making sure to keep their culture as the dominant one, though they would adopt Confucian philosophy as their state ideology, as well as Mandarin as their new language, since they quickly realized if they wanted to rule over the Han Chinese for as long as possible, they would need to adapt. As a result of this, they were able to establish a firm but relatively prosperous rule over the large population of China, which even back then was ridiculously high. However, the foundations of their empire began to crumble by the mid-19th century, when power-hungry foreigners began to set their sights on this East Asian treasure trove. After a series of humiliating defeats at the hands of European colonial powers during the Opium Wars, who proceeded to force the Chinese leadership to give in to a series of harsh concessions, the country being flooded with this highly addictive drug called opium, widespread corruption, numerous uprisings and rebellions, constant political rivalries between various branches of the military and the imperial government itself, even among members of the royal family, it all finally came crashing down in the early 1900s, when China suffered yet another humiliating defeat at the hands of the Eight-Nation Alliance, made up of the various Western and Eastern colonial powers that had interests in Chinese territory, and who all invaded the country to crush the Boxer Rebellion, which itself had the endorsement of the Qing government under Empress Dowager Cixi. The Boxer Rebellion being an attempt by Chinese radicals to rid their nation of foreign influence. Fast forward to the year 1908, and the jig was basically up for the Qing dynasty. Empress Dowager Cixi had finally passed away and left the throne to her grandnephew, Puyi, who at only 2 years old was basically decided to become the next emperor of China. However, by 1911, the country had fully erupted into absolute chaos, as rebel forces of the Tongmenghui and the Kuomintang, led by the father of modern China, Dr. Sun Yat-sen, waged a revolutionary war with the aim of overthrowing the Qing government and bringing an end to the long-lasting imperial system of rule. Emperor Puyi at age 6 was forced to abdicate and step down from the throne the following year in 1912, and Sun Yat-sen, together with his victorious revolutionary army and Kuomintang political party, started to set in motion the plans to begin modernizing China and hopefully establish a nationalistic, democratic government under the new banner of the Republic of China. However, Dr. Sun did make one extremely grave error. See, while planning the revolution, he eventually realized that the Kuomintang did not have the necessary firepower to take on the might of the Qing armies, as well as bringing stability to the rather chaotic northern regions of China, which by this point had fallen to the control of bandits and warlords. So to achieve this massive task, he made a deal with the most powerful military leader in all of China at the time, General Yuan Shikai, who sported a state-of-the-art modern army fully equipped with some powerful weaponry. Dr. Sun convinced Yuan to betray the Qing Empire and fight on the side of the revolution, and in exchange, he would grant him the position of becoming the first president of the Republic of China. However, being the double-crossing dog he was, Yuan Shikai instead decided to take power for himself after the Xinhai Revolutionary War was over, and attempted to re-establish a new bootleg version of the Qing Dynasty, which he dubbed the Empire of China in 1915, and crowning himself as the Hongshan Emperor, or Great Emperor. Unfortunately for him though, absolutely no one supported him, not even his own troops, who all instantly rebelled, since they saw it as nothing but a greedy power grab. Thus, just 4 months later, he was forced to abolish his bootleg empire and passed away shortly thereafter from utter disappointment. This final and total collapse of all forms of governance within China led to a power vacuum, which the many competing factions of the northern regions took advantage of, waging never-ending bloody conflicts against each other in a period that became known as the Warlord Era, which itself deserves its own episode. There was some weak form of law and order in the capital of Beijing, which was now controlled by remnants of Yuan Shikai's Beiyang army, and who formed their own internationally recognized state called the Beiyang government. But for the most part, majority of China was in absolute shambles, as various warlords exchanged bullets with each other over territory, with the only other semblance of fragile stability in southern China, specifically in the city of Guangzhou, located in the province of Guangdong, where Sun Yat-sen and his Kuomintang party established a rival government to challenge the warlords and the Beiyang government in Beijing. It would only be a year after the death of Dr. Sun in 1925 that his successor, General Chiang Kai-shek, would raise up the forces of the KMT and take the fight directly to the warlords and the Beiyang army in the northern expeditions between 1926 to 1928, where he would absolutely wipe the floor with almost all of them, though a few stubborn warlords remained, which in turn led to the Central Plains War between 1929 and 1930. But by then, the general had firmly established his rule over much of China, though his work in waging war against whom he perceived as the enemies of the Chinese people was not over, since he not only had to draw his attention to the encroaching Japanese, who ended up invading Manchuria and other parts of northeastern China in 1931, but also to the growing influence of Soviet Russian communism in China, after the Soviet Union started to make friends with members of the CCP, or Chinese Communist Party, which by this time had already been established in 1921 and had already started to stir up trouble by 1927, when Mao Zedong attempted to initiate the Autumn Harvest Uprising, which ultimately failed. But trust me when I say that Chiang Kai-shek would eventually come to absolutely hate communists, since he saw them as nothing more than another attempt at foreign meddling in Chinese affairs, since they were influenced by the Russian Soviets. And as per tradition on this channel, prepare your capitalist anus for an incoming communism meme. See, in the early 1920s, the KMT actually didn't mind the commies that much, and there was in fact an alliance between the two parties. However, somewhere along the lines, something went extremely sour between the two sides, which effectively kicked off the start of the Chinese Civil War. General Chiang Kai-shek started to make moves towards obtaining absolute power of the KMT in 1926, with his first step towards this ultimate end goal being to become the commander-in-chief of the National Revolutionary Army. And while he was planning to take on the Beiyang government and the warlords up north as part of his northern expedition, he also felt the need to absolutely exterminate the communists, which he believed had infected the south. And so he initiated the White Terror campaign against any and all people who even thought about Marxist ideology, as he sent out troops to massacre each and every single member of the CCP, including those that simply had a conversation with one of them, with majority of his focus being in Shanghai, but also in surrounding areas like Hunan. Remember what I said about the Chinese going out of their way to win first place in the causing as much death as possible rankings?
What do you mean everyone?
Anyway, this absolute top 10 anime betrayals moment from the KMT made Mao and his commie buddies so upset that they threw a little tantrum and decided to do something about it, which is what led to the aforementioned Autumn Harvest Uprising in response, as well as the Na-Chang and Guangzhou uprisings, where he and other CCP leaders attempted to establish peasant militias to take on the KMT army. However, since peasants aren't trained soldiers, his little uprising was absolutely crushed, forcing him and the rest of the CCP to retreat to the Jinggang Mountains between the Hunan and Jiangxi provinces to bide their time and to lick their wounds, while rethinking their revolutionary strategy, leading them to come to the conclusion that a peasant uprising wouldn't be enough, and they would need a stronger and more unified army of their own. Thus, the Red Army was founded in April 1928, after combining all their separate peasant and revolutionary armies together. Mao Zedong himself would also conduct a survey of peasant living conditions in the Hunan countryside during this time, which eventually led to his influential Report on an Investigation of the Peasant Movement in Hunan, which in turn shifted the CCP strategy towards rural revolution by reaching out to the peasants and poor rather than those living in the cities. Since as standard populist ideology goes, it's much easier to influence the minds of the uneducated masses who live in poverty by promising them bread and an end to all their afflictions, rather than the already affluent middle and upper classes who simply want to maintain their standing in the social hierarchy. From here on right throughout the 1930s, the CCP and their Red Army would continue to be a thorn in the side of the KMT and General Chiang Kai-shek, who by this point had become the president of the entire Kuomintang party. Not only did he have to deal with their newly adopted rural revolution and their hit-and-run guerrilla tactics when it came to warfare, but also with the ever-growing threat of a full-scale Japanese invasion, who, as mentioned earlier, in 1931 had already taken Manchuria and set up a puppet state which they renamed to Manchukuo, with the former Emperor Puyi in charge as their political lapdog. But in 1937 they decided to do exactly what General Chiang feared and launched a full-scale invasion of mainland China. It was around this time when Jackie Chan's father, Fang Daolong, aka Charles Chan, would enter the service of the Kuomintang party's military wing, namely the National Revolutionary Army, or NRA. Jackie's dad supposedly started off his career in the KMT army, first as a military orderly or personal guard to the then esteemed Chinese nationalist general Gu Zhudong, after his own father, Jackie Chan's granddad, managed to organize him the job through his own political connections to the KMT and General Gu himself. General Gu would eventually climb the ranks to become Chief of Staff under Chiang Kai-shek, while Charles Chan would remain in Gu's service as his personal armed guard, along with many other young Chinese soldiers within the NRA's ranks. Charles would unfortunately lose his job as an orderly under Gu's command when he accidentally fired his rifle, which endangered the lives of his fellow soldiers. Thus, with his tail between his legs, he left the NRA and found a job on a Mitsubishi container ship in Wuhan City, the same place that the super enhanced bat flu came from, that they all told us was totally not from a virology lab. Also, I am not suicidal in any way, shape or form.
This is the CID. You are surrounded. Don't try to escape.
While working on the Japanese-owned Mitsubishi cargo ship, Charles Chan and some of his buddies got themselves into quite a bit of trouble after being accused by some of the rival Japanese workers of stealing and smuggling a wide variety of goods from the containers. Thus, both he and his fellow Chinese workers were arrested by Japanese authorities and thrown into a Japanese-run prison, where they were, according to his own accounts, forced to watch executions as a form of psychological torture. In 1937, however, he was finally released after a relative of his with political connections managed to negotiate for his freedom, and since it was also the same year when Japan finally decided to launch a full-scale invasion against China, officially kicking off the Second Sino-Japanese War, there was no way for Charles to return to his job on the Mitsubishi cargo ship, since why would the Japanese re-employ someone who was accused of stealing from them but also who had now become the enemy thanks to the war? So he decided to return to the Kuomintang and to see if he could be recruited once again into the National Revolutionary Army under General Gu's command. I mean, they would have to have given him a second chance, since they were going to need all the manpower necessary to fight off the Japanese. Rather than serving as Gu's personal guard again, he was instead given a job at the NRA's Intelligence Bureau under the command of Lieutenant General Dai Li, where he would become a spy for the KMT Nationalists, operating against both the Japanese and the Communists, despite both sides of the Chinese political spectrum having made a fragile but temporary alliance against their common enemy of Japan. Jackie's dad survived 2 assassination attempts by whom he believed to be communist agents, and due to fearing for his life, he supposedly resigned from his position as a spy for the NRA. After this, there was a period of moving about to various locations across mainland China due to the ever-present communist assassination threat, as well as constant Japanese air raids throughout the remainder of the war. He would meet his first wife in the devastated province of Anhui, where they would have 2 sons named Fang Shide and Fang Shishong, and eventually moved to a far safer and less destroyed city of Wuhu, which was located in a more stable part of Anhui. Unfortunately though, his first wife would pass away from cervical cancer, and in the end, Charles Chan, or rather Fang Daolang, would end up bankrupt and destitute. So the sources on the lives of Jackie's father and mother seem to be quite vague, and I would suspect that there was quite a bit of embellishment along the way as well, since there are claims that his biological mother was an opium smuggler and a pretty famous gambler. But from what I could find, Charles supposedly met Li Chan while working as an inspection officer in Shanghai, which I am assuming happened either towards the end of World War II or straight after, since the last time we left Charles, he fled his position as an intelligence agent for the KMT during the Second Sino-Japanese War, which itself became a part of World War II when the Allies got involved in East Asia against the Japanese. And he got married, with his first wife dying during the war, leaving him broke and impoverished while trying to raise 2 young boys. So logically, we can only assume that he somehow made it to Shanghai either during the war or after, where he would start working as an inspection officer for the KMT government once again. There is also the idea that he never stopped being a spy for the NRA Intelligence Bureau to begin with. So please just bear with me, as every article I managed to find on this crazy story about the secret lives of Jackie Chan's parents seem to be all over the place. But then again, the story was relayed to Jackie when his father was extremely old and probably not in the most clearest states of mind. So it kinda makes sense if the details got a little muddied along the way. Perhaps someone who knows more can correct me in the comments if I've gotten anything wrong. Supposedly Charles got Lili out of a handful of sticky situations with the law as well as with the many triad gangs that operated in Shanghai, and the two became very close, eventually deciding to settle down together with Lili becoming his second wife. Now remember when I said earlier that the Nationalists and the Communists would ironically form an uneasy alliance during the war despite still resenting each other and spying on each other? Well, that did indeed happen, and from 1937 to 1945, which marked the end of both World War II and the Second Sino-Japanese War, both Communists and Nationalists fought alongside each other as well as alongside Russian, American, British, French and basically any other allied nation's troops to repel the Japanese from the rest of Asia. With the war effort finally ending when the US dropped Fat Man and Little Boy, the first two atomic bombs, onto Hiroshima and Nagasaki, forcing Japan to finally surrender and withdraw their military from all their conquered territories in the east. Now, you would think that since the Nationalists and the Communists in China fought in unison to kick the Japanese out of their country, they would finally put aside their differences and work together to rebuild their war-torn nation, right? Well, unfortunately, in the wise words of Thanos,
reality is often disappointing.
These two sides of the Chinese political spectrum hated each other so much that even a full-scale invasion from a foreign enemy couldn't stop the beef between them. And so in typical pro-gamer fashion, they pressed the start button on the PlayStation controller and unpaused the game, and went right back to trying to destroy each other as Season 2 of the Chinese Civil War kicked off in full swing. Only this time it would be the Communists that would gain the upper hand, since the battered and bruised NRA forces of the Nationalist Kuomintang Party, who dealt with the brunt of the Japanese invasion during World War II, simply could not match the now bolstered forces of the CCP's Red Army, who were also receiving support from the Soviet Union and had mastered the art of guerrilla warfare. Slowly but surely between 1946 and 1949, the Communists managed to take more and more KMT-held territory, eventually forcing Chiang Kai-shek and his Nationalists to flee to Taiwan, and some NRA soldiers even ending up in Southeast Asia, where they would get involved in the opium trade in that region. Link to that video down below. The CCP led by Mao Zedong would take full control of mainland China, renaming it to the People's Republic of China, while Chiang set up his own nationalist dictatorship in Taiwan, calling it the Republic of China, with both of these bitter rivals claiming legitimacy as the true government of China until their deaths, with Chiang finally passing in the year 1975, and Mao joining his sworn enemy in the afterlife just 1 year later in 1976, after both having put the Chinese people through absolute hell, with Chiang Kai-shek only really relenting slightly on his White Terror campaign in Taiwan and actually allowing the country to develop in the mid-1960s, and with Mao Zedong failing to implement his many 5-year plans correctly, which led to even more deaths thanks to famine and starvation, and even plunging the mainland into absolute chaos during the Cultural Revolution, just to maintain his hold on power until his death, with his successor Deng Xiaoping being the one to finally implement policies that would allow China to slowly become the global superpower it is today. As for Jackie Chan's parents, well, in 1949, Charles and Lili Chan would flee the mainland, fearing for their lives to the British colony of Hong Kong, with Charles leaving his 2 sons from his previous marriage in the care of friends and relatives, only reuniting with them again in the 1980s. Now, while it may be easy to think of him as a deadbeat dad who just abandoned his kids, do remember that in the eyes of the communists, he was still the enemy, since he worked as a spy for the Nationalists, and all those Nationalists and their supporters that were unable to flee mainland China when the Civil War ended and the CCP came to power were all purged as enemies of the state. So sadly, Charles was forced to flee without his sons, since he lacked the funds to take his entire family down to Hong Kong. But at least he was able to reunite with them eventually and break the news about his secret life as a spy to his most famous son, Chan Kong Sang, or Fang Shi Long, or as we all know him by his stage name, Jackie Chan. Today, the Kuomintang no longer hold power in Taiwan, since they were outvoted back in the year 2000 by the current ruling party, the DPP, or Democratic Progressive Party. As for mainland China, they always were and probably always will be ruled over by the CCP, or the more politically correct rebranded CPC, whatever the fuck you wanna call them. Yeah, that ain't changing anytime soon, trust me.
天上太阳红呀红彤彤哎，心中的太阳是毛泽东哎，他领导我们的解放哎，真理翻身当家做主人，咿呀咿自由呀呀自由啊，真理翻身当家做主人。 天上太阳红呀红彤彤哎，心中的。
Ironically, despite being bitter enemies with them since the 1920s, the Kuomintang have completely flipped the script and now wish to be best bros with the CCP and also support the One China policy, wanting Taiwan to become just another Chinese province, the way Hong Kong did in 1995. But the DPP on the other hand wish for Taiwan to remain an independent sovereign nation. But that is a topic I will definitely not be discussing any further because I value both my life, my privacy and my reputation.
Oh, get over it. You don't care.
It's the type of thing, man. You're gonna be psyched after you're done with it. Oh my god, dude.
As for Charles Chan, or rather Fang Daolong, well, as stated earlier, after fleeing to Hong Kong, he would marry Li Chan and take on her surname in order to hide his true identity, with Li eventually giving birth to a young boy in 1954 who she named Chan Kong Sang, and who would later become the internationally famous martial arts superstar we all know today as Jackie Chan. His father Charles would only reveal his true identity to his son much later in Jackie's life, and Jackie would go on to make a documentary film about this revelation in the early 2000s titled Traces of the Dragon, Jackie Chan and His Lost Family, where he would also learn about his two half-brothers Fang Shi-de and Fang Shi-shong, who were left behind in mainland China when his father fled. Jackie would, as mentioned earlier, change his Chinese name from Chan Kong Sang to Fang Shi Long, taking on his father's family name as his own as well. Eventually though, the former nationalist Chinese spy, Charles Chan, father to China's biggest superstar after Bruce Lee, would sadly pass away at the ripe old age of 93 in the year 2008, having lived quite an interesting but also somewhat tragic life. Now call me a conspiracy theorist, but a part of me wonders if maybe Jackie's bizarre takes regarding Chinese politics and his trouble with the mainland Chinese government to the point of them seizing two of his luxury estates in Beijing in 2020 aren't possibly tied to his father's past as a KMT spy and enemy of the CCP. Could it be that they may be punishing Jackie for his father's actions in the 1930s and 1940s? Or were there deeper political conflicts afoot within the Communist Party itself? Perhaps factional rivalries that unfortunately saw Jackie getting caught in the crossfire. But since the official reason for these seizures of his private property are tax evasion and ownership disputes, I guess we'll never really know. But anyway, my deepest apologies for another long-ass episode. which mind you only really skimmed over the events of the Chinese Civil War and all the insanity that took place in between. Like, what I covered here is barely a snowflake on the tip of the iceberg. China's history is indeed an extremely complex and intricate one, but my goal here was to try at least cover the basics and go over the main events, and how all of this is tied to one of the biggest Chinese movie stars of all time, Jackie Chan. But I'm sure that he definitely isn't the only Chinese person in the world whose family was affected by the Civil War, the Japanese invasion, and the eventual communist takeover. It just goes to show how history lives in each and every one of us. But it is sadly time for me to love y'all and leave y'all, since I do not wish to make this episode any more longer than it already is. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you feel like I may have left something out, or maybe even have gotten something totally wrong, feel free to let me know in the comments. After all, I'm not perfect, and I am prone to making mistakes, but being the inquisitive individual I am, I'm always willing to learn, so please do not hesitate to share whatever bits of extra information you might have on any of the topics I discuss in my videos, including this one, so that we may all grow in knowledge together. Until next time, peace.
Come at me, bro. Come at me. Come on. Come at me, bro. Come on. Pray. Come at me, bro. Come at me, bro. Come at me. I'm right here. I'm right on the move. Come at me, bro. I'm standing right here. Come at me, bro. Put your hands up, bro. Come here, bro. I'm right here.
天上太阳红呀红彤彤哎，心中的太阳是吗？